So this is the 5th lecture in Chapter 2, Neurobiology. And in this lecture, I just want to talk about what we mean by functional hemispheric specialization, and then talk about the activity that goes along with this. And it gives you an opportunity to consider if you're a right brain or a left brain person. So you probably heard of that concept, right? Like right brain or left brain. And I just want to sort of emphasize that and maybe you've even taken some like a personality assessment. Sometimes they'll do evaluations to see what kind of career you should go in based on if you're right brain or left brain. There is some psychologists who argue that we shouldn't put, they caution not to put too much emphasis on this right brain and left brain specialization thing. And the argument is that if we focus too much on what we prefer to do, then we might not seek out opportunities that we would also enjoy. So the scale that I've invited you to do is actually called a preference inventory and not a specialization inventory. So the idea is that, again, left brain, right? Left brain, you can read it here yourself. This is language and logic. And the right brain is more the spatial and musical. But here's the thing, and I probably forgot to mention this is a pretty important part, is that in fact, it's on your right hemisphere, oh, got it backwards. Your right hemisphere processes signals and information from your left, right, your left side. Your left hemisphere processes information from your right side. So they crisscross. Back in the olden days, we used to do pinhole cameras, and traditional cameras, that's how they process information. It goes crosswise. So this is how I remember this as well, is my mother's partner, and I think I mentioned him in another lecture. He had a brain tumor, no, I'm sorry, he had a stroke that damaged his left occipital lobe, right? His left occipital lobe. That had implications for his right peripheral vision, not his left peripheral vision, because they're crisscross. It gets even more complicated than that, because it's not like your left occipital, your left visual cortex processes information from your right eye. That's not how it works. It's that it's your periphery, it's your side vision, right? You can kind of see it in this illustration, but consider when you go in for your eye doctor appointments, or even that childhood activity, if you were to hold your hands out like this and look straight ahead at the board, how far, like just looking at the camera like I am now, I can see my right and my left, my hands out here, right? That's your peripheral vision. So when my mom's partner damaged his, oh, I got confused again, had his stroke, it meant he couldn't see anything that was not straight square from his nose, because both eyes, and you can see it on this diagram, both eyes process your right peripheral and your left peripheral, right? It's not like your right eye only gets your right side and your left eye only gets your left side, but both, I mean, you cover up your eye and do it like this, you can still see, right? Well, actually, I guess I do it like this, right? Do it like this, and I can still see my hand at some point. So that's kind of, it's kind of a fun little to think about your vision. Your vision is way more complicated, but the point is that we're talking about the periphery and not right and left eye. So in this little hemispheric preference, and again, I want to stress, this does not mean that you're just good at this and you're not good at the other stuff. This is based on the kinds of things that, given all these choices. So what you're given is a box, is 4 choices. And you're invited to pick the one that sounds the most pleasurable to you, right? Not what you're the best at, but what would be your choice. And there may be 2 choices in each category. And then after you've gone through and scored them, the directions are down here at the bottom, and you're college students, so I'm going to trust that you can read them. And you're supposed to put the number of A's and the number of B's, and then that'll be your total for left. I always ask students before they engage it, before they do this little activity, what do you think you are? Do you think that your preference will be towards Oh, language and skill things. Let me see where some of the other ones are. Will they be logic and verbal? Would those be the kinds of things you prefer to do? Or do you think they're going to be more like music and spatial and rearrange? I'm trying to think of some better examples. I think there's a picture actually in your textbooks, right? So what is it? What are the other categories? You have logic and verbal, right? Those are your left. So those would be like logic games or using words, manipulative. And in this case, manipulative is not like emotional manipulation, but you like to move things around, like rearranging furniture or puzzles, trying to think, designing things. Or do you like to create things, right? Which is kind of like designing things. You like to paint. But what do you think you're going to score? And then in order for it to be considered a valid difference, they have to be 3 apart. I will tell you, I can't remember now which one it is, but one of them, every time I've done this activity, I score a 0. I don't pick any of those. Yeah, I'll leave it like that, and maybe we can discuss in the discussion, what my score is. So anyway, but this is to emphasize hemispheric specialization. And then the corpus callosum again, which is the tissue that connects the two. Oh, I also have another video I'll have to make available to you. It's a story about a gentleman who has brain seizure. He's epileptic, which means he has a lot of seizures, or he has frequent seizures. And the way the doctors treated him was they severed his corpus callosum. They disconnected what enables his right hemisphere to communicate with his left hemisphere. Now, you and I because ours are connected, sometimes there's this cross communication that interferes. So that game about patting your head and rubbing your belly, that might be really hard for us because we're sending opposite messages. Or let me think of there's one really great example where, let's see, how does I ask you to do it? I ask you to make you make circles with your right hand and then circles with the feet on the same side of your body, right? Well, now you're to make circles with your right hand and then you're to go the opposite direction with your opposite foot. Can you do that? Right? That may or may not be easy for you, but chances are it's easier for you to do them on the same side because you're sending the same messages to that side of your body. When you start to send opposite messages to opposite sides, hey, I can actually do that, the opposite sides of your body, then those messages get, they're not as efficient because it's sort of like you've got your wires crossed. In this video with this gentleman, he's able to draw different shapes with both of his hands, right, without actually looking at his hands because his right hemisphere, they're not getting all mixed up. Where Alan Alda, who's the commentator in that show, he can't do it because his corpus callosum is intact. So I'm going to stop that here. There's a couple activities for you to do to reinforce this idea of hemispheric specialization and to answer the quiz question, true or false, if your corpus callosum is severed, will you die? The answer is false. You will not die. Okay, I'm going to see you later.